Morning, kids. Here's another lesson about computers. I'm going to continue and talk about the inside this time, but just to note here, what you see here, of course, you should know. It's called the PC99. We talked about that last time. Now, inside the computer, there's this. It usually has a basic look. You have usually a power supply that looks like this with multicolor wires. And here's your drive bays. This happens to be a DVD drive. You can add other things in front. This one actually could take a smaller floppy drive. And so you can put those in there. Underneath here is usually there's a big heat sink. That's where the main CPU is. There's other little boards here that usually are memory. And so the memory boards usually have multiple slots, so if you want to add more memory, you can add more memory to those slots. If you want to expand things in the computer, you would put them into slots here. Usually there's different kinds of slots. Newer computers typically are PCI, and these actually are PCI slots. This is a newer type of PCI called PCI Express. I think 16 is this one. And you can notice that they're different. They have a little bit different setback so that you don't put cards that, you don't try to jam cards into slots that don't work. So they try to key them so that they're not exactly lined up. So you'll notice that there'll be little blocking plastic pieces that you see on the PCI here, and that basically prevents you from sticking the wrong card into a slot that it doesn't work in, because they've had, I don't know, probably about 10 different slots. You could have VESA slot, there's an ISA slot, there's 16-bit slots, 8-bit slots, so basically they have a certain length too, so cards could go as long as over to here. That's less normal nowadays. They tend to have smaller cards, pack it all in. And even nowadays they have cards that are double wide, or these faster video cards. So that's your slots. That's where you expand the computer. The hard drive in this computer happens to be underneath here. This is called a SATA plug and a power plug. And they have a lot of conversion plugs, so if you have an old style 512 ground type plug, that was popular. There's also a smaller version of it here. This was used typically on floppy drives or CD drives. And then they also have these little converter cables. This converts it from one type to a SATA type. And if you notice in SATA, there's a lot of different keying that they have for that. And SATA is kind of like USB. It's a serial interface. And they have a lot of different types. They have panel mount types. There's ones that go directly into the device. There's wide connectors that have everything on one. So they come in a lot of types. So if you buy a SATA cable, you may be disappointed because you get the wrong one, that it doesn't work in your application. Either the gender's wrong or it's a panel mount one. So you really got to watch when you buy SATA cables. That's about it basically. This is the motherboard down here. They call it the motherboard because it's the mother of everything. These are daughter boards. So the daughter boards come into this larger board, which is the motherboard, that's what they call it. And then you have other things. You see other big chips in here. Usually those are the chipsets. There might be other chips that support all these PCI 99 type devices, and that's what the chipset does. It handles interface to these buses, PCI buses. It handles interface from the CPU over to the memory, things like that. So those chipsets handle a lot of miscellaneous things that they put in a small package, and they can get a lot of efficiency by putting everything in one spot to get LPTs, where these types of things, LPT and serial ports and video and all that, used to be separate cards in older computers. So now chipsets, they combine it all in the chip, and so you basically have more functionality in a smaller space. So that's a basic computer. Power supply, CPU, memory, expansion slots, PC99 for your standard peripheral, and CD drives and hard drives. Have a good day. Bye.